Hello friends, this is a very short and simple video related to the MCQ that I had posted on all my social media platforms this week. The MCQ was fairly simple, at least I thought it's very simple. It was on the cardiac output, but when I saw the options, answers, all options were marked by the students. So it's worth discussing that MCQ. Before we proceed, let me just remind you that we have started two new sections on our channel, the graph related discussions and MCQ related discussions. So before we proceed, why not subscribe to the channel? So here is the MCQ. Vagal stimulation will influence the cardiac output by all of the following effects except. And the options are chronotropy, dromotropy, bathmotropy and lucitropy. And therefore, of course, the answer was lucitropy. So to solve this MCQ, first you have to know what these effects are and how vagus has effect on all these influences, and thereby vagus can decrease the cardiac output. So let's understand the effects in detail. Before we look at the effects, let me just revise. Cardiac output is a product of stroke volume and heart rate. Stroke volume is a function of contractility of the ventricles, mechanical event, and heart rate is related to the conducting system of the heart. Pacemaker, it generates more heart rate and therefore cardiac output can increase that way. So contractile event decides the stroke volume, and electrical events spreading through the conducting system, they will decide the heart rate and thereby the cardiac output. With that in mind, let's see these effects. Chronotropy is effect related to the heart rate. Dromotropy means conduction speed, impulse conduction speed of one single impulse, how it goes fast or slow through the conducting system. Bathmotropy is general excitability in the heart. And then finally, inotropy and lucitropy. Inotropy is contractility, myocardial contractility, strength of contraction of the heart. And lucitropy, some authors like to call it luciotropy. It is the relaxability of the ventricles, relaxability and diastolic function of the ventricles. So you have noted here that the first three effects are related to the conducting system of the heart. Heart rate, it is determined by the pacemaker and the conducting system of the heart. Similarly, conduction speed and general excitability. So first three effects are related to the conducting system, and the last two effects are the mechanical events. Contraction, systole, and relaxation, diastole. These are the mechanical events. So first three effects will have influence on the heart rate and thereby the cardiac output. And the last two effects, particularly inotropy, will decide the stroke volume and therefore the cardiac output. Let that be clear. Is there any way we can remember these effects easily? Well, chronotropy has R, heart rate has R, dromotropy has D, conduction speed has D. Bathmotropy, I didn't find any simple method. Let's say after taking bath, we feel more enjoyable, more pleasurous, more excitable. So excitability, something like that. And lucitropy has got L and relaxability has got L. That's how you can remember these effects. Now coming to the effect of vagus. Basically, autonomic nervous system controls the functioning of the heart, sympathetic and parasympathetic branches. Sympathetic nerves, they start from T1 to T5 segments of the spinal cord and they innervate the heart. Now, sympathetic innervation is more wholesome in the sense that sympathetic nerves, they innervate the conducting system, they innervate the myocardium, ventricular muscle fibers, atrial musculature. They also innervate the coronary vessels. So it's a more wholesome innervation. Talking about vagus, the parasympathetic nerve. Now this vagus innervates the conducting system and the atrial musculature. but vagal innervation is not there in the ventricles. Some authors like to believe that vagus also innervates uppermost part of the ventricles, but keeping that aside, it's inconsequential. Keeping that aside, vagus innervates mainly the conducting system and the atria, and therefore vagus mainly influences the conducting system in effects, that is heart rate and conduction speed and general excitability. Vagus does not have any influence on the inotropy, ventricular contractility or strength of contraction of the ventricles. Vagus does not have any direct influence on the myocardial contractility or ventricular strength of contraction, because vagus innervation is not there in the ventricles, and therefore since it does not influence the contractility and also relaxability or lucidropy. That was the answer to the MCQ. Vagus has negative chronotropic effect, that is, it decreases the heart rate. It has got negative dromotropic effect, it decreases the impulse conduction speed. It has got negative bathmotropic effect, that is, it decreases the general excitability in the heart. So these three will reduce the heart rate and thereby reduce the cardiac output. And that's the effect of vagus on the cardiac output. It does not influence stroke volume, at least not directly. Finally, sympathetic nerves, on the other hand, sympathetic stimulation has all these effects positive. That is positive chronotropy, positive dromotropy, positive bathmotropy, positive inotropy. That mark this. Positive inotropic effect is an important effect of the sympathetic nerves. They increase the strength of contraction of the ventricles, and of course also positive lucidropy. So that was the answer to this MCQ. What you need to remember is that vagus innervates the conducting system and the atria, but not into the ventricles. Sympathetic nerves, they innervate almost all subsections in the heart, and that's the difference between sympathetic nerves versus vagus, and answer was lucidropy.